I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. And I sure do love my job. Yeah. I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. I was born to preach the gospel. And I sure do love my job. Yeah. Yes, I really love my job. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Oh, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Yes, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Get firmly rooted. So let's get firmly rooted. Let's get firmly rooted. So let's get firmly rooted. Oh, I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. Let's get firmly rooted. Firmly rooted. Let's get firmly rooted. Yeshua, 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 Yeshua. I'm a disciple that makes disciples that makes disciples. We are disciples that make disciples that make disciples. We are disciples that make disciples that make disciples. We are disciples that make disciples that make disciples. Let's keep firmly rooted. Firmly rooted.
Hey, good morning, Rooted Men. Pastor Tom, Firmly Rooted Ministries, and it is Wednesday morning, the first Wednesday of 2023. I did get the trash and the recycling out. Woo-woo. Let's see who's on board. I've only got one verse today. Man, is it foggy outside. Whew. All right, let's see. Ken Gooch is on board. Bert Reggiani, I see, is on board. I think some other guys are popping in, maybe got in a little late to this to the show. So let's just give it a second. Yeah, driving into the office was pretty, you could only see about 15 feet out in front of your car. It was pretty crazy. So let's go at it. Maybe some of these guys will take a look at it a little bit later. We're in 2 John chapter 1, and I've got simply one verse, but I think it's profound, and I think it's something that the enemy gets us screwed up with, and we get screwed up with it the way we teach it, and things get crazy. But we're going to look at one of the most repeated phrases from John, who's an apostle who wrote the Gospel of John because he followed Jesus. He listened to what Jesus said and then repeats these things, these teachings, even in his gospel, but also in his 3 letters. Listen to what he says in verse 5. And now, dear lady, now let's assume it could be a church and its members. And now, dear lady, I'm not writing you a new command, but one we have had from the beginning. I ask that we love one another. As we've grown up, as we grew up in churches, as we listened to commands and demands, it was all God wants me to do something, or he wants me to not do something, right? This kind of like collapsing in on our lives, and that's good and that's bad, and stop doing that and do more of that, and that's what'll please God and that doesn't please God, and everything was focused on the outward doing things, when in fact, going all the way back to Jesus's teachings, he could tell whether someone was outwardly doing something but inwardly didn't do it right, had the wrong heart. That God wants to know the intent of our heart, the motivation of our heart. Whether we put money in an offering plate, whether we go to church, whether we say prayers when we eat, he's happy that we do them as long as we're doing them from the right perspective. It's what got screwed up in the garden, right? God wanted everything to come out of love for him. Hence, when Jesus was asked, what's the greatest commandment? He said to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. It's the way God intended it in the beginning. Why? Because we're created in God's image, and he is a selfless, unconditional lover. And he created Adam and Eve to selflessly and unconditionally love God and each other until sin came and broke love. And now you've got Adam and Eve more worried about themselves than each other as they blame others, blame each other. All of a sudden it's a blame game and they're hiding from God. And this is what Jesus came to restore. Not that we would do more things that God wants us to do, but that everything that we would do would come out of love, and then would be deeds that were reflective of that love. So God's not impressed with me, with you, with any of us by just the outward appearance of what we do, because he already knows our why. He already knows the intent of our heart before we even did whatever it is we did. No wonder John makes this his most repeated phrase. Love. God is love. God created man in his own image. Man sinned. God loved man. God redeemed man. God, by the power of the Spirit, creates faith in man. That faith restores love. Man is supposed to love God, grow in that love. We firmly root ourselves in God's love. We absorb ourselves. We drench ourselves in God's love. Why? So that it'll become the reason why we do everything we do. I'm hoping this makes sense, but Satan is always going to point at, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you did that, right? Like somehow we're going to be a good boy or a bad boy depending upon what we do. And Jesus is saying, stop. First, know why you're doing. The intent of your heart is what already gives me joy. The intent of your heart being one of love is already guaranteeing that you're going to fulfill the commandment. Because a lack of love makes us do bad things. The presence of love makes us do good things. Does that make sense? So he's not giving us a new commandment. He's giving us one that goes all the way back to the beginning and goes back to the beginning of Jesus' teaching, that we ought to love. Knowing that we are loved, we love God and we love our fellow man. All right, I hope that this was a blessing to you. Let's see, Glenn came on here. Good morning, gents. So good to have you on board, guys. I hope this devotion's a blessing. If you get out in the roads, be careful. The fog is pretty crazy. Blessings on your day. Make it a firmly rooted day, and may someone see Jesus in us today. Peace.